Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to This Explainer. We are looking at what is honestly one of the most astonishing corporate scandals we've ever unpacked. It's a massive web of complicity. We're talking corporate espionage, smuggled goods, and a total, frankly, staggering lack of oversight inside the DMCC Coffee Centre in Dubai, a place that's supposed to be highly secure. We've got a lot of ground to cover, and the paper trail here is going to completely change how you look at international business security. So let's get right to it. I mean, just think about this premise for a second. How exactly does an international fugitive just casually clock in for a night shift at a secure government facility? It sounds like a bad movie plot, right? In any normal functioning system, they don't. But as we start unraveling this scandal piece by piece, you'll see this absolutely absurd reality actually played out. And look, this wasn't just some one-off glitch in the system. No, this was a sustained operation that somehow bypassed literally every logical security measure they had in place. There is a wild contradiction right at the center of all this. Let's look at a former employee named Wilna Kruger. Officially, her legal status in Dubai included an active arrest warrant, an absconder order, and a travel ban. I mean, these are incredibly severe restrictions. With paper like that, you're at immediate risk of arrest. But inside the DMCC facility, it was like a totally different universe. The reality was unrestricted day and night access. We're talking about a wanted fugitive somehow completely evading advanced facial recognition systems just to stroll through the doors of a secure free zone facility whenever she felt like it. It's mind-boggling. So you're probably wondering, what was she actually doing during these unrestricted night shifts? Well, she certainly wasn't just grabbing a coffee. Wilna Kruger was allegedly committing severe NDA breaches and outright stealing proprietary trade secrets. She was secretly working inside the DMCC Coffee Centre to illegally repackage compromised coffee that belonged to her former employer, BR Food. And this wasn't just generic coffee. We're talking about the theft of award-winning flavor profiles, highly specific roasting methods, and premium blends under the Gustoso brand. Basically, a calculated dismantling of an award-winning company's intellectual property right under the noses of security. So, the crucial point is, who actually knew about this? Was it just some guy asleep at the security desk? Absolutely not. The affected company formally, and I mean explicitly, informed the absolute top tier of DMCC leadership. Let me just list them out for you. Farial Amahadi, the COO, Jignesh Sangbi, the CFO, Ahmed Hamza, the general director, Saeed Aswaidi, the coffee center director, Mike Butler over at the head office, Ahmed bin Salayem, the CEO himself, and Mohammed. Every single one of these top executives was formally warned that a fugitive was operating inside their walls. Yet, somehow, no action was taken to enforce the law. Zero. Instead of an arrest, there seemed to be a systematic accommodation of these individuals. Now, stealing the coffee is really only half the battle, right? You still have to monetize it. And this is where Wilna's husband, Andreas Kruger, steps in. First step, the stolen oxidized coffee gets repackaged. Step 2, Andreas abandons his job at BR Food to run a company called Cab, allegedly using illicit visas, which, by the way, is completely prohibited. But step 3 is the real kicker. To scale this whole operation up, they needed cash. According to the evidence, they used these exact same pirated products to secure funding directly through DMCC Tradeflow Finance, specifically facilitated via Anthony Furtado. So the very institution where the theft was happening was allegedly the one helping to finance it. You literally can't make this stuff up. Which brings us to a massive question. Who exactly gave these fugitives the confidence to operate so out in the open? Put yourself in Andreas Kruger's shoes for a second. Your wife is an international fugitive with an active arrest warrant, yet he felt so incredibly protected, so untouchable, that he was literally sending WhatsApp messages to BR Food's own long-standing clients. He was texting the victims' clients to sell them the exact same pirated coffee in new packaging. Think about the audacity of that. You don't just do that unless you are absolutely 100% certain that the authorities aren't going to come knocking on your door. And that audacity? It extended to the physical movement of the goods, too. Normally, to move coffee from the DMCC free zone to commercial customers out in Dubai mainland, it has to pass Dubai municipality sanitary inspections. That's standard. But because this repackaged coffee was completely unauthorized, had absolutely zero traceability, and was already oxidized from improper handling, it could never legally pass those inspections. So moving these unauthorized goods into the mainland, that effectively constitutes smuggling. This wasn't just a simple corporate dispute anymore. This pirated coffee bypassed all sanitary protocols, posing very real health risks to consumers. Now, you'd probably expect that when the victims brought all this concrete evidence to the authorities, the response would be, swift justice. But they got the exact opposite. DMCC Legal allegedly sent this chilling email directly to the directors of the defrauded company. Rather than enforcing the law and protecting the foreign investors who literally just had their trade secrets stolen, DMCC Legal sent threatening communications demanding the victims stop asking questions, stop making inquiries, or face consequences. They effectively pressured and intimidated the victims into staying silent. But behind closed doors, DMCC clearly knew they had a massive vulnerability on their hands. Almost immediately after the victims exposed the fugitives' unrestricted access, there were these sudden, highly suspicious changes made to the facility's access rules. They quietly tightened the net. And this reactive rule change is vital to understand because it essentially serves as a silent admission of guilt. It's basically acknowledging that the previous security measures, like those facial recognition systems we talked about earlier, were intentionally being bypassed. And the moment they realized they'd been caught, they quickly scrambled to patch the leak. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the fallout that happened right after all this came to light. It's highly suspicious. We see a massive, sudden turnover in leadership, which forces us to ask, did Nandi Jordan, Jignesh Sanghvi, and Saeed Al-Suwaidi leave their positions, and did Farrell Ahmadi change roles directly because of this scandal? You know how it goes in the corporate world. When a localized crisis like this erupts, and suddenly multiple top executives either vanish from the org chart or get shuffled around, well, that is rarely a coincidence. To put a finer point on that turnover, let's look at Saeed Al-Suwaidi. He was the director of the Coffee Centre, literally the man in charge of the exact facility where these fugitives were running their secret night shifts. He was dismissed exactly 2 days after concrete evidence of the crimes was presented. 2 days! I mean, that is a glaring indicator of a rapid internal scramble. It looks like a desperate attempt to clean house before the public could ever figure out what was really going on inside the free zone. So, with the old guard suddenly shifting roles or leaving entirely, a new DMCC executive named Khalid Sharaf steps into the picture. His job was to handle compensation negotiations with the defrauded Brazilian coffee company. But despite all of this glaring evidence, the stolen intellectual property, the smuggled goods, the massive financial damages, these negotiations essentially went nowhere. The victims were just stonewalled. No meaningful agreement was ever reached, leaving the legitimate investors holding the bag from a massive crime that was facilitated right inside a government-free zone. Which leaves us with this final, deeply provocative question. After looking at all of this, the bypassed security, the financing of stolen goods through DMCC Trade Flow Finance, the threatening emails against the victims, we have to ask, is the law being used only to intimidate foreign investors, while those aligned with powerful interests remain completely untouchable? Because when international fugitives can operate this freely and the system actually protects them instead of the victims, well, it forces every single business to really ponder the true cost of doing business there. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you next time.